This is Mark Bell from SuperTraining.tv, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West. Got a question from a guy named Anthony Christie, and also got a question off of YouTube from a guy named Go Pioneer Laser Zero. You guys have a similar question, so I just figured I'd lump them together and address both of you. This question is from a guy who's got a question about the box squat in particular, and what he's basically asking is he's wondering if you should be an external rotation throughout the entire range of motion. I don't like to get too technical. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm very fearful that I'll say the wrong shit and have a bunch of people yelling at me about stuff. So I like to keep it simple. When you're doing a box squat, when you're performing any squat, especially a squat with a wider stance, you're trying to force your knees out to where your feet are. So that's why you always hear us yelling, knees out, knees out, knees out. We're trying to force our knees out to where our feet are or to where our ankles are. This will build up tremendous hip strength. It'll build up explosiveness. By hips, I mean hips and ass, just kind of that whole area there, basically from your belly button to the top of your quads. So you're going to be able to build up that whole area. You're going to become more explosive. And what you're trying to do, in your question, you're asking, should you be externally rotated the whole time? The answer to that is yes. You should be trying to force your knees out throughout the entire range of motion. Every once in a while, I've run into people that have really floppy hips, and they can just really, wham, they could just externally rotate like a little baby on a changing table. Their knees just go flying way out. In those extreme cases, you may have to try to figure out something where you're actually not forcing your knees out as much. You may have to point your feet straight ahead so that you lock the hips down, you create more torque, as my homie Kelly Starrett always talks about. You always want to try to push the floor apart. That's a cue that we give in our gym a lot. That's a cue that you hear quite often. You want to try to keep weight on your feet. A lot of times people will let the weight off of their feet, and when they go to come back up, they'll rock, and they'll rock forward into the lift. Their leg will internally rotate, their knees will come in, their knee will come forward, and then they'll do a two-part lift, which is a no-go. But, Anthony Christie, you don't need to turn this into a fucking science project. Keep it simple, You're talking about internal, external rotation, talking about the knee being in the valgus position, which is just basically inward. You don't need to get all crazy and technical about a lot of this stuff. What you want to do is you want to do the exact opposite. You want to try to simplify. You want to oversimplify as much of this stuff as you can. How do you do a deadlift? You bend down, try to get your back straight, you try to keep your hips lower than your shoulders, and you inhale some air into your stomach and you pull. You want to try to make it very simple. You want to try to utilize terms and terminology that everyone's going to understand. We are in the fitness community, so a lot of people do understand these terms, internal, external rotation. But you want to also make sure that you're not getting caught up in the wrong shit. I see a lot of people out there getting caught up in the wrong things, taking supplements and what protein to take before workout, what protein to take after workout. Do you think guys like Bill Kazmaier ever gave a shit about that? I think guys like Ed Coan ever cared about that, so why should you? Why should you all of a sudden? Do you think Usain Bolt is doing something, with chemicals, or doing something with, with whey protein or a carbohydrate or something that the world does not know about, the rest of the world does not know about? No. He's got God-given talent, he busts his ass, trains like a savage, and there you go. He's got world records. So just be careful you don't get caught up in the wrong stuff. I'm glad you asked this question. I'm glad you're doing your homework, and I'm glad you know your terminology. So don't take it the wrong way. Well, thanks for your question, and that is it from SuperTraining.tv.